At his own wife's funeral, Evelyn received a shocking phone call from her daughter-in-law. "Stop pretending to cry. Come serve us now." But that cruel demand was only the beginning. Behind the funeral, Evelyn discovered hidden documents, a secret account, a missing woman, and a betrayal her late wife had spent months trying to expose. And when Evelyn finally learned who was behind it all, the truth was far more shocking than she ever imagined. Stay until the end to discover how Evelyn turned grief into justice. If you enjoy emotional family stories, shocking twists, and satisfying justice, subscribe now and join us for the story. The phone rang while I was standing beside my wife's coffin. I remember the exact moment because my hands were resting on the edge of the wooden lectern, and I had been trying to find the strength to speak about the woman I had loved for 41 years. Her name was Maris, my wife, my best friend. And now, she was lying inside a polished oak coffin 6 feet away from me. The chapel in Briar Glen was crowded. Friends, former colleagues, neighbors, and relatives filled nearly every seat. Rain tapped against the tall windows, and the funeral director, Gideon Rusk, stood quietly near the entrance. I had barely slept for 3 nights. Then my phone vibrated. I looked at the screen. Sable Vane, my daughter-in-law. I almost ignored the call. Then it rang again. I answered. "Hello." Her voice came immediately. "Stop pretending to cry. Come serve us now." For several seconds, I couldn't speak. I thought I had misheard her. "What?" "You heard me, Evelyn. The reception room is a mess. The caterer is complaining, Callan's business partners are arriving, and nobody is organizing the food." I looked at Maris's coffin. "I'm at my wife's funeral." And her cold response made my stomach tighten. "And you want me to leave the service to serve food?" "You're not the only person grieving," Sable snapped. "People have traveled here. They need to be taken care of." I lowered my voice. "Maris has been dead for less than 3 hours." "Exactly. So stop making everything about yourself." I felt something inside me go still. Sable continued. "Come to the reception room now. Smile if you have to. Your behavior is embarrassing, Callan." I ended the call. For a moment, I simply stared at the phone. Then I heard someone behind me. "Evelyn." I turned. Gideon was holding a thin brown folder. "There's something Maris asked me to give you." My heart began beating faster. "Maris?" He nodded. "She left specific instructions." I opened the folder. Inside was a single document with Maris's signature. The date was 3 weeks before her death. I read the first paragraph twice. It stated that if Maris died unexpectedly, certain financial documents were not to be released to me immediately. Instead, they were to be given to Orrin Bellwether. I knew that name. Maris's former accountant. I hadn't spoken to him in 12 years. Why would she do this? I asked. Gideon looked uncomfortable. She told me something else. What? She said that if anyone pressured you to leave her funeral, you were not to go home. My fingers tightened around the paper. Did she say who would pressure me? Gideon didn't answer. He didn't need to. I already knew. My phone vibrated again. This time, it was a message from Sable. "Come now, or I'll handle this without you." I stared at those words. Then I turned toward the chapel doors. For 41 years, Maris and I had shared everything. We had survived illness, financial problems, family arguments, and years when neither of us knew what tomorrow would bring. But during the final months of her life, she had started keeping secrets. I had assumed she was trying to protect me from worry. Now I wondered if she had been protecting me from someone. I walked outside. The rain had become heavier. I called my son, Callan. He answered after the third ring. "Mom, where are you?" "At the reception." "Did Sable ask me to serve the guests?" Silence. That silence told me more than his answer could have. "Callan, she just needs help. Your mother's funeral is happening right now." "I know. Then why isn't she here?" Another silence. Finally, Callan said quietly, "Mom, please just come." I closed my eyes. "No, Mom, no. I'm not leaving your mother's funeral." I ended the call. Then I looked at the folder again. There was an envelope tucked inside. My name was written on it in Maris's handwriting. I opened it with trembling fingers. There were only 4 lines. Evelyn, if Sable tries to make you leave my funeral, do not go home. Go to the old railway station. Ask for Oren. And trust nothing you hear before he tells you the truth. I read it again. Then I looked toward the road leading out of the cemetery. I had no idea what Maris had discovered. I only knew one thing. My wife's final instructions had just turned her funeral into the beginning of a mystery. And somewhere in Briar Glen, a man named Oren Bellwether was waiting for me. By 6 o'clock that evening, I was standing inside the abandoned railway station on the eastern edge of Briar Glen. I had not been there in more than 40 years. The building looked smaller than I remembered. Dust covered the wooden benches, several windows were cracked, and an old clock above the ticket counter had stopped at 11:17. I kept checking the road outside. I expected someone to follow me. Sable had always been good at finding people. She knew where Callan went. She knew where I went. She knew almost everything about our family. But she did not know about this place. At least, I hope she didn't. At exactly 6 o'clock, the side door opened. An elderly man walked inside carrying a black leather case. I recognized him immediately. Oren Bellwether?
He stopped.
You're Evelyn. I nodded. Maris told me to come here. I know. Those 2 words made me uneasy. You knew I was coming? Oren placed the case on the bench. I've known you might come for 5 months. I stared at him. What happened 5 months ago? Your wife contacted me. Why? He looked toward the empty railway tracks before answering. Because Maris discovered something she couldn't handle alone. I felt my throat tighten. Was she afraid? Oren didn't answer immediately. Yes, he finally said. Of what? Not of dying. He opened the leather case. She was afraid of what would happen after she died. Inside were several bank statements, a small metal key, and a sealed envelope. My name was written across the envelope. I picked it up. Why didn't she tell me? Because she believed someone was watching her finances. Who? Oren looked directly at me. Your daughter-in-law. My stomach dropped. Sable? He nodded. I wanted to reject the accusation immediately. Sable was difficult. She was controlling. She had always treated family gatherings like business meetings. But accusing her of something serious was different. Do you have proof? I have documents. Before he could explain, headlights appeared outside. A black SUV stopped beside the station. I recognized the vehicle. Sable stepped out. My heart sank. How did she find us? Oren closed the case. She may have followed you. Sable entered the station without knocking. Her black funeral dress was still perfectly arranged, despite the rain outside. She looked at me first. Then she looked at Oren. Give me the case. No, Oren said. Sable's expression hardened. You don't understand what you're doing. I stepped between them. Then explain it. She looked at me. Your wife was hiding things from you. So were you. Her eyes narrowed. You have no idea what Maris was involved in. Then tell me. Instead of answering, Sable reached into her handbag. She pulled out a photograph. It showed Maris standing outside a medical research facility. Beside her stood an unfamiliar young man. I took the photograph. When was this taken? 6 months ago, Sable said. Maris told me she never went there. That doesn't mean she didn't. I turned the photograph over. There was handwriting on the back. 6 months before Evelyn knows. I looked at Oren. He had gone pale. You recognize this? Yes. What does it mean? Before he could answer, Sable stepped closer. It means Maris was keeping a secret from you. Oren shook his head. No. It means someone wants Evelyn to believe that. Sable suddenly became quiet. For the first time since I had known her, I saw fear in her eyes. That frightened me more than her anger. I opened the envelope Maris had left for me. Inside was a short letter. Evelyn, if Sable reaches you before Oren explains everything, trust neither her nor Callan. The money was never stolen. It was moved to protect someone who is still alive. I read the last sentence again. Someone who is still alive. I looked at Oren. Who? He closed his eyes. Someone Maris spent months protecting. Who? Before he could answer, Sable suddenly turned toward the door. I have to go. I grabbed her arm. You came here for the case. Now you're leaving without explaining anything? She pulled free. You should listen to your wife, Evelyn. What does that mean? She looked at me for several seconds. Then she said quietly, ask yourself why Maris never told you about her. She walked into the rain. I remained frozen beside the old railway bench. Oren picked up the photograph. That man isn't the person Maris was protecting. Then who is she protecting? He looked at me. Her name is Illyra Vane. My breath stopped. Vane. Oren nodded. Sable's younger sister. I stared at the door where Sable had disappeared. Suddenly, the photograph was no longer the most frightening thing in that room. The most frightening thing was the possibility that my wife had been protecting someone from her own family. And she had trusted me enough to leave the truth behind, but not enough to tell me while she was alive. The name Illyra Vane stayed in my mind all night. By 8 the next morning, I was sitting at my kitchen table with Oren across from me. The funeral flowers were still in the living room, and Maris's photograph stood beside an untouched cup of coffee. I hadn't slept. Tell me everything, I said. Oren opened the black case. Not everything is in here. Then where is it? At a medical archive in Westbridge. I stared at him. Why would Maris keep financial evidence in a medical archive? Because she knew nobody in your family would look there. An hour later, we drove to Westbridge. The building belonged to the Marrow Community Health Foundation, a small organization Maris had supported for years. I had visited it only once years ago. A young woman was waiting at the entrance. My name is Nessa Quill, she said. I'm the foundation's junior archivist. She looked nervous. Mrs. Marrow, your wife left instructions for me. What kind? Nessa led us downstairs. The basement contained rows of locked cabinets and boxes. She stopped in front of one marked with Maris's initials. She unlocked it. Inside were medical files. I recognized my name on the first folder. My hands went cold. Why are my medical records here? Nessa looked at Oren. Because your wife believed someone had been using your identity. I opened the folder. There were copies of loan applications, bank statements, and property documents. Several carried my signature. I had never seen any of them. These aren't mine. I know, Oren said. I turned toward him. Who signed them? We don't know yet. I kept reading. The dates were spread across 18 months, beginning shortly after Maris became ill. During that period, I had spent most of my days at the hospital. I barely handled our finances. Callan had taken over many household responsibilities. My son. I refused to believe it. Could Callan have done this? Oren didn't answer. That silence hurt. Then Nessa pulled another folder from a cabinet. This is about Illyra. I opened it. There was a photograph of a young woman sitting in a hospital room. She looked frightened. On the back was written, found by Maris. Protect her before Sable does. I looked at Nessa. Where is she now? We don't know. When did she disappear? 5 months ago. The same month Maris had contacted Oren. A new thought struck me. Did Maris know she was going to die? Nessa lowered her eyes. She knew she was getting worse. That isn't what I asked. Oren stepped closer. Your wife believed her illness was being complicated by something else. What? He handed me a medical report. There were irregularities in Maris's medication records. Some prescriptions had been altered. My breathing became shallow. Are you saying someone poisoned my wife? No, Oren said quickly. We don't have proof of that, but you suspect it. He said nothing. Then Nessa suddenly reached into another drawer. There is one more thing. She handed me a sealed envelope. Maris's handwriting covered the front. I opened it. Evelyn, if you find the records, do not accuse Callan. He may be guilty of something, but not this. Trust him only after you ask him one question. What did Sable make you sign? I stared at the sentence. What did she make Callan sign? Oren's phone rang. He answered. His expression changed. What happened? He listened for several seconds. Then he looked at me. The archive's security alarm has been triggered. Nessa rushed toward the stairs. We followed. Smoke was already creeping beneath the door. Someone had started a fire in the storage room. Nessa grabbed a box while Oren pulled me toward the emergency exit. We escaped through the back of the building. Firefighters arrived minutes later. I stood across the street, watching smoke rise from the windows. My wife's records were burning, but Nessa was holding one box against her chest. "What did you save?" I asked. She opened it. Most of the files were damaged. Only one folder remained intact. It contained a copy of a contract between Callan and a company I had never heard of. I read the company name, Vane Holdings. My stomach tightened. Oren looked at me. This is what Maris was trying to expose. I looked back at the burning building. Then my phone rang. "Callan." I answered immediately. "Mom, where are you?" "Westbridge." His voice dropped. "Did you find the Vane documents?" I froze. "How do you know about them?" He didn't answer. Then I heard Sable shouting somewhere behind him. "Callan, put the phone down." The line went silent. I stared at Oren. My son knew about the documents. Sable knew. And now someone had tried to destroy the evidence. For the first time, I understood that Maris's funeral was not the beginning of this fight. It was only the moment I finally became aware that the fight had already started. I drove home before noon, but I did not go inside. I parked across the street and watched my house from the car. After what happened at the archive, I no longer trusted locked doors, private conversations, or even people who claimed to be protecting me. Oren sat beside me. Nessa was in the back seat with the surviving documents. "Callan knew about Vane Holdings," I said. "Yes." "And Sable was with him." "Yes." I looked at the house. "Then why hasn't Callan called again?" Oren checked his phone. "He has." He handed it to me. There were 3 missed calls from an unknown number. Under them was a message. "Mom, don't come inside." I stared at the screen. Then another message arrived. "Sable knows you have the contract." My pulse quickened. "Callan sent that?" "No," Oren said. "The number isn't his." I looked at the house again. The curtains in Maris's study moved. Someone was inside. We waited 10 minutes before approaching. Oren called the police, but he told me not to enter until they arrived. Then the front door opened. Sable stepped onto the porch. She was alone. "Evelyn," she called. I stayed beside the car. "Where is my son?" "He's inside." "Is he hurt?" "He's fine." I didn't believe her. "Let me see him." Sable smiled. "You're becoming suspicious." "I should have been suspicious years ago." Her smile disappeared. "Your wife made you suspicious." "My wife knew you were dangerous." Sable's eyes hardened. "Maris didn't know everything." "Then tell me what she didn't know." She looked toward the road. "You have the Vane contract." "Yes." "Then you know about the company." "I know enough." "No, Evelyn. You know the part Maris wanted you to know." She walked closer. "Your wife destroyed my family's future." I said nothing. Sable continued. "My father built Vane Holdings from nothing. Maris took control of one of his medical properties and forced him out. That doesn't explain the fraud. It explains everything." Oren stepped forward. "Your father sold that property voluntarily." Sable glared at him. "You weren't there." "No," Oren said. "But I have the transaction records." For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Sable whispered, "Maris stole something from us." "What?" "My sister." The words shocked me. "Illyra?" Sable nodded. "She was unstable. She needed treatment. Maris convinced her to leave the family." "Why?" "Because Illyra discovered what my father was doing." I stared at her. "What was he doing?" Sable looked away. "Selling patient information." My stomach turned. Oren immediately asked, "And you?" I was trying to stop it. I almost laughed. "By creating shell companies?" She didn't answer. Then a sound came from inside the house. A chair fell. I ran toward the door. Sable grabbed my arm. "Don't." I pulled free. "That's my son." I entered. Callan was sitting on the floor in Maris's study. His lip was bleeding. A broken glass lay beside him. I rushed to him. "Callan, I'm okay." "You're bleeding." He wiped his mouth. "I found something." He pointed toward Maris's desk. A hidden compartment had been opened. Inside was a small recorder. I picked it up. Where did you find this? Behind the bottom drawer. Sable entered the room. Give it to me. Callan stood.
No.
She looked at him. You promised. I turned toward my son. Promised what? Callan looked ashamed. I signed something. What did you sign? A transfer agreement. For what? The clinic.
My heart sank.
Sable told me Maris's estate would collapse without it. She said we needed to transfer the property temporarily. Did you read it?
No.
Oren took the document from Callan's pocket. He read it silently. Then he looked at me. This wasn't a temporary transfer. What was it? Callan transferred controlling ownership to Sable's company. I looked at my son. He began to cry. I didn't know. Sable stepped forward. You signed it.
You lied to me, Callan said.
I protected you.
No.
You used me. The room became silent. Then the recorder suddenly activated. Maris's voice filled the study. If you're hearing this, someone has tried to take control of my estate. I stopped breathing. Sable froze. Maris continued. Evelyn, I need you to understand something. The money isn't the real issue. The recording crackled. The clinic is. Oren looked at me. Maris's voice continued. Someone has been using the clinic to hide transactions involving vulnerable patients. I couldn't stop them alone. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. The person responsible is not Sable. I stared at the recorder. Sable's face went pale. Callan whispered, Then who is it? The recording continued. I believe the person responsible is someone Evelyn trusts completely. The audio stopped. I looked around the room. My eyes landed on Oren. He was staring at me. And for the first time since Maris died, I wondered if the person helping me uncover the truth was the person Maris had warned me about. I looked at Oren, and for several seconds nobody moved. The recording had ended, but Maris's final sentence remained in my head. Someone Evelyn trusts completely. Oren had been helping me since the funeral. He had brought me documents. He had protected the evidence. He had warned me about Sable. And now Maris had told me to be careful about someone I trusted. Oren slowly raised both hands. Evelyn, listen to the entire recording. There is no more. There is. He reached into his coat and pulled out a second recorder. My heart sank. You had another one? Maris gave it to me the night before she went into the hospital. Why didn't you show me? Because she told me not to until you found the first recorder. I stared at him. Play it. He pressed the button. Maris's voice filled the room again. If Oren is standing beside you when you hear this, don't blame him. I looked at Oren. He closed his eyes. Maris continued. He is the person I trusted to protect the evidence, but he is not the person I trusted completely. I released a breath. The recording continued. The person I trusted completely is someone I have known for most of my life. There was a pause. Her name is Celestine Wren. I frowned. I had never heard that name. Who is Celestine? I asked. Oren looked at me. She was Maris's attorney. Why would I trust her? You did. I remembered her. Celestine had handled several legal matters for Maris over the years. She had visited our house many times. She had attended family dinners. She had even helped me organize Maris's medical paperwork. I had trusted her completely. The recording continued. Celestine discovered the clinic transactions before I did. I believed she was helping me investigate them. I was wrong. My stomach tightened. She created a second set of records and made it appear that the illegal transactions were connected to Sable's company. Sable stared at the recorder. So, she framed me? Yes, Maris's voice said. She wanted control of the clinic. Oren stopped the recording. I stared at him. Where is Celestine now? She left Briar Glen yesterday. Where did she go? Westbridge Airport. I stood immediately. Callan grabbed his coat. I'm coming. Sable laughed bitterly. You think she'll simply confess? No, I said. We're going to make sure she can't destroy the evidence. 2 hours later, we reached the airport. Nessa had already contacted an investigator from the State Health Department. She had also sent copies of the surviving files to a secure server. That was when another twist emerged. Celestine wasn't leaving the country. She was flying to a small coastal town where Illyra had been living under another name. She found Illyra, Nessa said. I felt sick. She wants to silence her. We rushed to the gate, but Celestine was already gone. Then my phone rang. An unfamiliar woman spoke. Evelyn Marrow? Yes. This is Illyra. I stopped walking. Where are you? Somewhere safe. Celestine is looking for you. I know. Why did Maris protect you? Illyra was silent for several seconds. Because I have the original ledger. My heart began pounding. What ledger? The one that proves who took the patient information. Who? Illyra whispered the name. Celestine Wren. The call ended. I looked at Oren. We need to find her. Before he could respond, Callan's phone buzzed. He read the message. His face changed. What? He handed me the phone. The message contained a photograph of Maris's grave. Underneath it were 6 words. You're looking in the wrong place. Then another message appeared. The ledger is in your house. I stared at the photograph. Someone had been watching us, and they wanted us to return home. This time, I knew it was a trap. But I also knew something else. If the original ledger was really in my house, it could finally prove everything. I turned to Callan. We're going back. Sable stepped toward us. I'm coming too. I looked at her. No. She frowned. You still don't trust me? I don't trust anyone anymore. Then I walked toward the exit. For the first time since Maris's funeral, I wasn't following someone else's instructions. I was making my own decision. And whoever had planted that message had just made the biggest mistake of their life. They had given me a reason to stop running. We returned to my house just before midnight. This time, I did not enter through the front door. Oren checked the windows while Nessa stayed in the car, keeping copies of the evidence secure. Callan stood beside me, staring at the house where he had grown up. I know where Maris kept important things, he said. Where? Her sewing room. We went inside. The house was completely dark. Nothing appeared disturbed. That worried me more than a broken window would have. Someone wanted us to believe the house was untouched. Callan led me upstairs. Behind a cabinet in Maris's sewing room was a narrow wooden panel. He pushed it aside and revealed a small compartment. It was empty. I felt my heart sink. It's gone. Then I noticed something beneath the cabinet. A tiny brass key. I picked it up. There was a number engraved on it. 317. Oren immediately recognized it. That's not a house key. What is it? A storage locker. We drove to the old train station. Locker 317 was still there. My hands shook as I inserted the key. Inside was a metal box. There was no money, no jewelry, only a thick black ledger and a letter. I opened the ledger. Names filled every page. Patients, doctors, property owners, companies, payments, and, besides several names were initials. C.W. Celestine Wren. I looked at Oren. We have her. No, he said quietly. We have evidence. There was a difference. Evidence could be destroyed. We needed proof that could survive a courtroom. Then I opened Maris's letter. Evelyn, if you found the ledger, Celestine has probably already realized what happened. Do not confront her. Let the truth come to her instead. I read the next paragraph. The ledger is only half the evidence. I looked at Oren. What is the other half? He pointed toward the final page. A single sentence was written there. Ask Illyra about the recording. My phone rang. It was Illyra. I know where Celestine is, she said. Where? At the old clinic. We drove there immediately. The building was empty. The lights were off. The main entrance stood open. Inside, Illyra was waiting. She looked younger than I expected, but exhausted. She held a small recorder. Maris gave me this, she said. What does it contain? Celestine admitting everything. Before she could explain, a door slammed upstairs. We all looked up. Footsteps moved across the hallway. Celestine appeared at the top of the stairs. She wasn't holding a weapon. She didn't need one. She held a phone. Give me the ledger, she said. No. Evelyn, You don't understand what you're holding. I understand enough. She laughed. Your wife understood too late. Illyra stepped forward. You lied to everyone. Celestine looked at her. I protected this foundation from people who would have destroyed it. You stole patient records. I moved them. You sold them. Celestine's expression changed. That was her mistake. She had revealed too much. Nessa had secretly activated the recorder on her phone. Oren immediately called the investigator. Celestine realized what had happened.
She ran.
Callan blocked the doorway. She pushed him aside and fled through the back exit. But the police were already outside. Minutes later, they arrested her. For months, Celestine had manipulated everyone by controlling what they knew. Now she had nothing left to control. The investigation continued for several weeks. The ledger, recordings, financial documents, and digital files proved that Celestine had created the fraudulent accounts and manipulated the clinic's records. Sable was cleared of the central fraud scheme, although she still faced charges for the contracts she had forced Callan to sign. Callan accepted responsibility for his actions. He lost his business license and spent the next year cooperating with investigators. I never pretended everything was forgiven, but I visited him.
He was still my son.
Illyra testified against Celestine and returned to Briar Glen under her real name. The clinic survived. Maris's trust protected it from being sold. 6 months after the funeral, I stood outside the clinic while the first patients entered. I carried Maris's blue notebook in my hands. I opened it to the final page. Her handwriting was simple. Evelyn, don't spend the rest of your life proving you survived me. I read the next line. Build something worth surviving for. I closed the notebook. For months, I had thought justice meant making the people who hurt me suffer. I was wrong. Justice was making sure they could never hurt another person the same way. Celestine lost her freedom. Sable lost the control she had tried to gain. Callan lost the business he had nearly sacrificed his integrity for. And I lost the fear that had controlled me since Maris died. I did not get my wife back. No punishment could change that. But I had something she wanted me to have. A future. I looked at the clinic doors and whispered. I kept my promise. Then I walked inside. For the first time since Maris's funeral, I wasn't living as someone's grieving widow. I was simply Evelyn. And that was the final thing Maris had left me. If you enjoyed this story of family betrayal, hidden secrets, and hard-earned justice, subscribe for more stories like this. And tell me in the comments, if you were Evelyn, would you have forgiven Callan?